2020 will undoubtedly become an appreciable momentum in the last month of the year 2020. As all of you know, the pandemic has not yet ended. However, it will not stop us from enhancing ourselves for sharing knowledge. The purpose of this seminar is to disseminate local knowledge from experts, given the importance of indigenous knowledge for sustainable development in all aspects and disciplines. Padjajaran University has taken the initiative to invite all groups to continue to apply and preserve it. The event will also launch Indigenous Knowledge System Division at the Padjajaran University Knowledge Management Center, Unpad's Indigenous Knowledge Journal, and planning for the Unpad Knowledge Theater. The event is also sponsored by Sagung Seto. Now let us begin the program. I would like to invite our chair for this international seminar, Ibu Wina Erwina, Ph.D., to give some opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, I present you Ibu Wina Erwina, Ph.D.
Thank you very much, Ms. Indri. The honorable guest, Professor Dr. Rina, Indiastuti Rector Universitas Padjajaran, University Rectors all from Indonesia, the leaders from Bappenas, BJB, National Library, National Archive, PDD ILIPI, Dinas Kebudayaan and Pariwisata Jawa Barat, and various other community organizations, Senate Professor, Vice Rectors, Leaders, and Dean in Universitas Padjajaran. All my friends from the Leiden Ethnoscience and Development Program, lead of Leiden University, the Netherlands, and the former Indonesia Research Center from Indonesia, Knowledge INRIC, Twinning Master Program, Medical Anthropology and Aromatherapy, TwinMap, International Consortium for Integrated Microfinance Management, ICIMM, Integrated Ecotourism Management Program. And respectable speaker, Professor Dr. H.C. Elian Slikkerveer, Professor Dr. Insinyur Ganjar Kurnia DEA, and Professor Dr. Diploma Ing M.AD Mutangat Kramadebrata M.Res Eng SC, and Dr. H.C. Mata Tilaar. In this occasionally, I would like to say my deepest sympathies that goes out to Ibu Dr. H.C. Mata Tilaar and her family for the loss of her brother, Bapak Professor Dr. Bambang Handana. May God give you the peace that you seek. Then the other speaker, Patrick Maundu, M.SIE, Ph.D. Candidate, Kurniawan Saifullah, Ph.D., as well as all international seminar participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greeting to all of us, Sampurasun. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for His blessing. We can gather together online in an international seminar with title Indigenous Knowledge for Sustainable Development today, 10th December 2020 from Jatinangor, Java, Indonesia. The Unpad Center of Knowledge Management as a memory institution of Universitas Padjajaran is an organization maintain a repository of civitas academica knowledge, including libraries, archive, heritage monument and site or museum institution, as well as provider of digital libraries and data aggregation services, which serve as a memory for given society and mankind, serve the purpose of documenting, contextualizing, preserving, and indexing elements of human culture and collective memory at Universitas Padjajaran. The Unpad Center for Knowledge Management is a part of the Directorate Education and Internationalization under coordination Vice Rector Academic Professor Arif Syam Sulaksan Kartasasmita, Dr. SPMK, MKes, PhD. The seminar is a collaboration between the Knowledge Management Center of Universitas Padjadjaran and the Leiden Ethnoscience and Development Program lead of Leiden University in the Netherlands. Continuing the collaborations that started in 1987, which has been running for approximately 40 years. Universitas Padjadjaran has started to pay attention and develop this indigenous knowledge study since the leadership of the late Chancellor, almarhum Professor Maman Rukmana, continued by the late almarhum Prof. Himendra Warga Hadibrata, then Professor Ganjar Kurnia, then Prof. Trihanggono, until now under the leadership of Rector Professor Rina Indiastuti. We are present with 6 presenters. The first, Professor Dr. H.C. Elian Slikkerveer, Director and founding member of the lead program Leiden University. Second, Professor Dr. Insinyur Ganjar Kurnia, DEA, Chairman of the Center for Digitalization and Development of Sundanese Culture Universitas Padjadjaran, also as Chairman of Academic Senate Universitas Padjadjaran. The third, Professor Dr. Diploma Ing M.SIE Mutangat Ramadi Brata, M.Res Eng Science, the former chairman of INRIC Universitas Padjadjaran. And the fourth, Dr. H.C. Marta Tilaar, founder Komisari Marta Tilaar Group. The fifth of Patrick Maundu, M.SC Ph.D, scientist of National Museum, Kenya. And the sixth, Kurniawan Saifullah, Ph.D, Associate Professor in Faculty of Economic and Business Universitas Padjadjaran. Within 250 participants who already registered, come from many countries, Indonesia, in the Path region of West Java, South Java, DKI Jakarta, East Kalimantan, South and North Sumatra, Yogyakarta, Riau, Papua, and etc. And the other countries come from the Netherlands, Greece, Kenya, Tanzania, England, Malaysia, Philippines, Japan, and Austria. And they are come from various occupations, lecturers, researchers, university students, librarians, archivists, professional bankers, and etc. And then come from many community organizations, such university, library, archive, documentation, institution, and other. We would like to express our deep gratitude to various parties who help organize this event and sponsorship by Sagung Seto. Also, especially on this occasionally, we would like to thank the Rector of Universitas Padjadjaran, Professor Dr. Rina Indiastuti. It is because of her support from her that this activity can be carried out. We also asked the Rector to open this international seminar as well as to launch the division of the Indigenous Knowledge System or IKS division at the Universitas Padjadjaran Knowledge Management Center. Second, Journal of the Unpad Indigenous Knowledge, Journal International, and starting the construction of the Unpad Knowledge Theater. Hopefully, this seminar will be of benefit to the development of indigenous knowledge studies in Unpad and the world. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sampurasun.
Thank you, Ibu Wina Erwina, Ph.D, for the opening remark. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you, Ibu Professor Rina Indiastuti, our rector, to give an opening speech and the inauguration for this event.
Okay. Thank you, Ibu Sri. To the honorable guests, University Rector in Indonesia, and also the leaders from Bappenas, Bank BJB, National Library, National Archive, and then LIPI, PDDI LIPI, and West Java Culture and Tourism Office, and other organizations, and also honorable college professors of Unpad and other universities, vice rectors, leaders, dean in Universitas Padjadjaran, and head of Center Knowledge Management Universitas Padjadjaran, Ibu Wina, and honorable speaker, Professor Dr. Slikkerveer, and invited speakers, our previous rector, Professor Dr. Insinyur Ganjar Kurnia, and the speaker, Professor Dr. Diploma Ade Mutangat Kramadi Brata, and also Mr. Patrick Mondu, Ph.D. candidate, and Dr. Honoris Causa Marta Pilar, or the representative, and Pak Kurniawan Saifullah Ph.D., and also all participants. Very good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to the International Seminar of Indigenous Knowledge for Sustainable Development in Universitas Padjadjaran, in campus of Jatinangor, Universitas Padjadjaran. As we know, since 1993, Universitas Padjadjaran has been committed towards the development of local knowledge or indigenous knowledge systems. And at the time, Indonesian Resource Center for Indigenous Knowledge, or we call INRIC, was established in collaboration with Leiden University. INRIC concerns with the adoption and development of the ethno-medicine and ethno-agroforestry as a basis for developing appropriate models or rural sustainable development plannings and natural resource management strategies in order to improve existing practices in preventing the further degradation of resource management system in Indonesia. And nowadays we had been established the Integrated Microfinance Management, or EMM, master's program in 8 years ago, in also collaboration with Leiden University. And we brought that we have now 4 doctorates, including Ibu Wina, who are expert in the various fields of indigenous knowledge systems and applied ethnoscience. And inshallah, there will be 3 more doctorates in the near future in the same field. Ladies and gentlemen, in view of this development, it is deemed necessary to create an international journal of indigenous knowledge organized by Center for Knowledge Management, Universitas Padjadjaran, as mentioned by Ibu Wina. And in the near future, Universitas Padjadjaran will also have digital facilities to enrich library function for the dissemination of knowledge and research findings, which we call the theater of knowledge. And maybe also on this special day, we would like to wish congratulations for Professor Dr. Slikkerveer, who had his birthday yesterday. Thank you for working together with Universitas Padjadjaran to initiate and develop indigenous knowledge system in Indonesia, which can contribute for the world. So we do hope that the international journal and also theater of knowledge, maybe we do hope through 2 forum, we can develop more the indigenous knowledge system in Indonesia. And I hereby officially open today's seminar on Indigenous knowledge for sustainable development. Thank you and have a good and fruitful seminar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Rina Indiastuti, for the opening speech. And now we are going to see some videos. Yes, please. Okay, now before we continue to our next program, let us first take a photo session. Okay, so dear participant, can we all open? Oh, there's another video. Okay, wait for the video first. Okay, I hope the video is finished. Yeah, okay. So I hope you enjoyed the video and the show. And thank you again for Professor Rina Indiastuti for the opening speech and inauguration. Now, before we continue our next program, I would like to invite you all to take a photo session first. Okay, so there are 3 slides. Can everybody open their video so everyone can give a very big smile for this occasion? Okay. Okay, ready, ready everyone? Okay. Mr. Krishna, are you ready to take the photo?
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Cheese.
Cheese. Okay. One more time.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for the photos. Okay. Dear audiences, ladies and gentlemen, as we have finished our opening, I welcome you to the next program. We shall have 2 main sessions of discussion. During the discussion, if you have any questions, participants may type in the chat box and refer it to one or more speakers. Questions will later be discussed on the questions and answer session. You may also submit your present on the link in the chat box during the discussion later. Okay, the first discussion will be from respectable keynote speakers, Professor Slikkerveer, Professor Ganjar Kurnia, and Professor ADM Kramadibrata. Ibu Raden Maya Febrianti, M.Pharm Apotheker, will lead the first discussion as the moderator. I would like first to read her CV. Okay, Ibu Raden Maya Febrianti, born in Indonesia, is a lecturer in the Faculty of Pharmacy Unpad and currently a Ph.D. candidate in the lead program, Leiden University. She completed her bachelor degree in pharmacy in 2009 in Universitas Padjadjaran and completed her pharmacist profession in 2010, and also her MA in pharmacy in 2013. She has accomplished many awards, one of which is the LPDP Scholarship for Doctoral Program. She has published many scientific publications related on herbal medicines. So ladies and gentlemen, I present you Ibu Raden Maya Febrianti M.Pharm as our first moderator for the first session.
Thank you, Ibu Sri Indriani, for your kind introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen in Indonesia. Good afternoon to other participants in Netherlands. Good morning. In other participants in Netherlands. It is my pleasure to welcome you here to the International Seminar Program, Indigenous Knowledge for Sustainable Development. As introduced by Ibu Sri Indriani, I am Maya Febrianti, and I will be your moderator for the first session today. As we know, since the mid of 20th century, there is a shift in the development perspective from top-down intervention to grassroots or bottom-up participatory. Consequently, a variety of disciplines such as anthropology, ecology, and medicine conduct multidisciplinary research focuses on indigenous or local knowledge to provide improvement for the community development, biocultural diversity, and healthcare delivery. Research on indigenous knowledge system has been carried out in several developing countries, including in Indonesia. And today, we're going to hear some of the insightful presentations from our prominent presenters regarding the studies on indigenous knowledge and which direction we are heading in this field. Furthermore, we will also have the opportunity to discuss the issues in the research of indigenous knowledge in our discussion session later today. I will repeat that if you have any question during the presentations, please type them into the question box in your panel Zoom. Control panel. The committee will compile all the questions and I will bring them up during the discussion at the end of the session. For the first speaker, I am honored to welcome Professor Dr. Elian Slikkerveer. Professor Dr. Elian Slikkerveer is the Professor of Applied Ethnoscience at the Faculty of Science, Leiden University, and Professor of Integrated Microfinance Management at the Faculty of Economic and Business in Universitas Padjadjaran. He is also the founder and the director of the Leiden Ethnosystems and Development Program, LEAD program, as a global center in the Slikkerveer Global Network on Indigenous Knowledge System and Development. Professor Slikkerveer is also a student's Ph.D. dissertation supervisor and examiner pertaining to granting Ph.D. degrees from Leiden University. Today, there are already 12 Ph.D. degrees has been realized since 2005 and 10 Ph.D. research in progress from Indonesia, Greece, Kenya, and Tanzania, including my Ph.D. research. Professor Slikkerveer has maintained a strong academic collaboration with Unpad, initiating and guiding several scientific programs, such as medical anthropology, WinMap, a double degree in medical anthropology program, as a co-founder with Professor Dr. Kusnaka Adimiharja for the first Indonesian Research Center for Indigenous Knowledge and INRIC, and also the professor at the IMM, Integrated Microfinance Management at Faculty of Economic and Business, Unpad. In 2005, Professor Slikkerveer was granted with Dr. Honoris Causa by the Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Padjadjaran. Professor Slikkerveer, together with Professor Michael Warren and Professor David Brokensa, published the book Cultural Dimension of Development, which is viewed by many as seminal in promoting the research in indigenous knowledge system. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Dr. Elian Slikkerveer. Professor Slikkerveer, the floor is yours.
The sound. Still mute.
Still mute, Prof.
Please unmute, Prof. Prof, please unmute the voice, Prof. There is a sign, red microphone, Prof, that you can press and to unmute. Under your picture, there is a sign of unmute.
Does it go better now?
Now, yes, we can hear you now, Prof.
Okay,
yes.
thank you so much. Thank you. let me now find my presentation disappeared. God.
I'm sorry, it's early morning, Prof, in Leiden.
Well, you know, I'm checking now my. I try to find my my presentation. It's coming up. Yes. All right. Thank you. Okay. Can you hear me, Ibu Wina?
Yes, Prof, it's clear.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, you clearly,
Okay.
Professor.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, let me repeat again that I'm very happy to be nicely introduced by Ibu Febrianti. And let me first address myself to the Honorable Rector, Professor Dr. Rina Indiastuti. I highly appreciate her personal words and her effort to join us at this very important and historical meeting of today. Also, I'm very happy to address Mrs. Dr. Wina Erwina, Professor Dr. Ganjar Kurnia, Professor Dr. Ade Kamadibrata, Mrs. Nuning Barwa, who is kindly representing Mrs. Dr. Marta Tilaar, who's unfortunately her brother sadly passed away, and we all share our sympathy with Mrs. Dr. Marta Tilaar. Furthermore, I wish to address Dr. Kurniawan Saifullah and of course all the members of the organizing committee, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I think today is a historical day for many of us here together in this remarkable seminar in Bandung and elsewhere around the globe through the digital technology of the Skype meeting in so many respects, where I think a glimpse over the past 3 decades is in place, as that will underscore our mission to continue what has been achieved so far by an ever-growing group of scientists, students, often supported by the general public in this newly developing discipline of ethnoscience, showing the way ahead for a better life for all peoples and cultures in Indonesia and beyond. After I had completed my PhD research on plural medical systems in the Horn of Africa, my wife M.SIE introduced me in 1984 to her alma mater, Universitas Padjadjaran, where she had been studying before she continued her studies in languages and cultures of Southeast Asia in Leiden. Among her many fellow students from her time at Unpad was also the anthropologist, the late Professor Dr. Kusnaka Adimiharja. And after we shared our great interest in the role of the so often ignored systems of indigenous knowledge and practice in socioeconomic development, we decided to join forces and work together on the revitalization in the modern time, supported by the CCARD Lead CIRAN Global Network, which had been founded with the late Professor Mike Warren from Iowa State. We worked together with Pak Kusnaka and his colleagues in many publications, projects, conferences in Leiden, in Bandung, in Mumbai, and the Philippines, all culminating in our substantial contributions to the leading book on cultural and spiritual values of biodiversity, published by the United Nations Environmental Programme, UNEP, in Nairobi, at Intermediate Technology Publications in London. And I think of direct relevance for us today is the initiative of Professor Kusnaka to establish here at Unpad the first Indonesian Resource Center for Indigenous Knowledge, INRIC, in 1994. Ibu Maya kindly mentioned that already. And as such, the INRIC was joining our global network on indigenous knowledge systems and development, which in fact accumulated highly diverse knowledge, wisdom, and cultures of Indonesian communities. Because of its multidisciplinary orientation, INRIC was housed in the Faculty of Social Sciences, but was operated directly under the rectorate, under the late rector, Professor Dr. Himendra Wargahadibrata, soon drawing also from the interest and the knowledge from other faculties. And I mention here the Faculty of Medicine, Professor Ramdan Panigoro, Professor Pompon Idra Binata, and Dr. Hani, but also from environmental studies, Professor Ukan Abdullah, agriculture, Professor Ade Kamadibrata, and Dr. Harry Heriawan, and of course, the communication, Professor Dr. Dedi Mulyana. At the time, Professor Iskandar became then the rector of the secretary of INRIC. And I show here a historical picture of the international seminar, the opening of the Indonesian Resource Center for Indigenous Knowledge, INRIC, in July 1994, with an exhibition and a formal opening at the Savoy Holman Hotel in Bandung. And I'm sure that you recognize many of your colleagues and friends already at the time active in the field of indigenous knowledge and development. Among the first team of students working at INRIC were Pak Hikmat, Pak Budi Hikmat, Pak Budi, Ibu Femi, Pak Arif, and Pak Oki. And we at our Leiden Ethnosystems and Development Program of Leiden University are proud of all their pioneering work in ethnoscience, providing their contribution to the first documentation and study of the rich body of indigenous knowledge and practice in Indonesia. And while we all were very sad when Professor Kusnaka passed away, it was most fortunate that Professor Ada Kramadibrata took the chair of INRIC, providing many studies on indigenous knowledge and development, especially in the highly interesting and sustainable agro-ecosystems in Indonesia, further paving the way for the promotion of research and training in ethnoscience and its subfields at the various faculties. And when we noticed with pleasure that more and more staff and students from different faculties increased their interest and their research and training in the development side and the potential of indigenous knowledge systems in development, there was a certain disappointment that the timely initiative of Prof. Ade and Prof. Iskandar to submit their proposal to the Senate to upgrade INRIC to an interfaculty Pasca Sarjana program did not pass the Senate at the time. While we have witnessed that with the ongoing process of modernization and westernization, the economic and social-cultural situation of the society, and in particular at the community level, has not really been improved. And we are still faced with a larger part of the population living under near the poverty line. Health and adequate housing is unequally distributed. Food supplies are suffering from the negative impact of climate change, and we have a general deterioration of the environment, which continues to take of commercial interest of the few. So it is interesting, however, that a growing number of studies, especially at the grassroots level, are showing that many forms of local knowledge, practice, and institutions are functional in alleviating many of these problems, often embarking on local people's experience and wisdom, deserving as such more study and analysis in various sectors of the community. And during our collaboration in our global network, and especially with our colleagues and our PhD students from INRIC and from other faculties, we saw that the documentation of these often unique forms of local knowledge and practice is working against the clock. Time is running out, often as the result of the penetration and domination of global knowledge, rendering local knowledge often marginal, despite its great potential. So time is running out in our efforts to document, study, and analyze the local knowledge systems. And we saw that during this kind of research, we found out that not only in the socioeconomic development, but also in related sectors in agriculture, environmental management, and healthcare development, the role of indigenous peoples' knowledge, institutions, and practices are in fact the original core of the local cultures, which, although often ignored, in fact provide the key to many sustainable solutions. I have already brought to mind that in this way, I was pleased that a joint publication on integrated community managed development saw the light at Springer Verlag. And I was very happy that Dr. Baurakis from Crete and Dr. Saifullah from Unpad, together we were able not only to provide a bottom-up strategy to this famous United Nations Agenda for Sustainable Development by this year, 2020, but we also found so many evidence-based determinants of local institutions and cooperatives, which underscored the promise of the new ethnoscience approach of alternative ways to solve communal problems. And I'm very happy to announce that I just heard that our book is now also used as a guidance for the complex policy planning and implementation process at the United Nations in New York, and as such indeed providing a substantial contribution to the United Nations Agenda for Sustainable Development. I think that it is most fortunate that several young lecturers from Universitas Padjadjaran, but also from Malang, from Kenya, from Jakarta, and so on, have taken up the scientific documentation, study, and analysis of several systems of indigenous knowledge, belief, and practice, not just for the study of culture as such, often regarded as a hobby, but in the many subfields in ethnoscience, where all these students start with documentation as the first and foremost endeavor to make a living inventory of these systems. And what I think is very important, that if we cannot use these systems today, we can use them tomorrow. We can need them tomorrow, where we could face, however, the risk that in the meantime, these systems have disappeared. And I think that in line with the work of INRIC, the documentation provides a substantial knowledge repository, which is the key to sustainable community development in the future. In other words, the documentation and study of indigenous knowledge systems is not anymore a hobby to indulge in the manifestations of cultural heritage, but it is a key component in the joint efforts to reach a more sustainable world in the coming decades, in line with the United Nations Agenda for 2030 for Sustainable Development. And I think that from that point of view, I'm very proud that young scientists have joined the PhD program of our lead program in Leiden in the fascinating subfields of ethnoscience, such as ethnocommunication, the work of Dr. Wina Erwina, who also is leading her team, including Pak Kusnandar. Ethnoeconomics, Dr. Kurnia Saifullah. Ethno-agriculture, Mr. Harlan Dimas and Mr. Patrick Maundu, he's from Kenya. Ethnopharmacy, Mrs. Febrianti. Ethno-nursing, Ibu Laini, Mrs. Raini and Mrs. Ruli. Williantri, and of course, ethnohistory and ethnogeography, Professor Dr. Anak Agung Gede Agung and Dr. Angeler. And so go on, the list increases, and that is, especially today, a very important assessment. So I think that we are very privileged to draw today on the work at Unpad of Professor Dr. Ganjar Kurnia's documentation of Sundanese languages and cultures, which is such an important manifestation of a leading culture in West Java, focusing on the skills of our PhD fellows from Leiden to contribute to the further development of the work and mission which was started by Enric for the future of Unpad, Indonesia and beyond. And I think that it is therefore most fortunate now that Professor Ade Kramadibrata has reached his pension after dedicating so much of his successful career to our important mission, that Mrs. Dr. Erwina has taken up the important task to integrate Enric into her Center for Knowledge Management at Universitas Padjadjaran. In this way, providing a growing body of knowledge while substantiating the experience of the past, also providing the key to the future of innovative science and sustainable community development in this part of Indonesia. And I wish her and all our colleagues much success, and where possible, I will continue to support you also, as I am proud to have also a position of a professor at the Faculty of Economics and Business. And of course, my heart goes out to all our young lecturers who dedicate their work to save our forefathers' knowledge and practice in the communities around Indonesia. I'm especially proud that as a child from your country, I was born in Sumatra. I'm very pleased that I can witness this today, and I wish you all much, much success with this important task, not at the least to reach truly sustainable community development in the years to come. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Professor Slikkerveer, for the nice presentation. So for the second speaker, I am honored to welcome you, Professor Dr. Insinyur Ganjar Kurnia. Professor Ganjar Kurnia is the professor in Sociology of Agriculture in Universitas Padjadjaran and was the former rector of Universitas Padjadjaran for the period of 2007 until 2011 and 2011 until 2015. Professor Ganjar Kurnia currently is the chairman of Academic Senate as well as the chairman of the Center for Digitalization and Development of Sundanese Culture, Universitas Padjadjaran. Professor Ganjar has conducted several research in the field of socioeconomic of the community and demography, and collaborated with several institutions such as World Bank, Ford Foundation, and Asia Foundation. In addition to his academic position and his academic activities, Professor Ganjar Kurnia also has several contributions on Indonesian cultures, particularly in Sundanese cultures. Among others are as the founder of Research Unpad, and as the scriptwriter and director of Gending Karesmen and the contributor of Tembang Bandungan. As previously presented by Professor Slikkerveer, that the documentation of indigenous knowledge provides a substantial knowledge repository, which is the key to the sustainable development in the future. And today, Professor Ganjar Kurnia will deliver a presentation entitled Unpad Digitalization of Indigenous Knowledge. Professor Ganjar Kurnia, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Honorary guest, Ibu Rektor Universitas Padjajaran, Prof. Yan, Slikkerveer, Prof. Ade Mentangad, Professor Marta Tilar, Dr. Kurniawan, Ibu Wina, and all participants. Sorry. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I thank you for the opportunity to speak at this seminar. Furthermore, I would like to make a special mention to Professor Slikkerveer, who is having his birthday. On your young life by smile, on your age by friends, and happy birthday. May the joy that you have read in the past come back into you the days after. For Unpad, Professor Slikkerveer has his own place because he is involved in the establishment of Indonesian Research for Indigenous Knowledge, supervise our staff who studied at Leiden University, and sponsor the establishment of microfinance master program, etc. We pray that Professor Slikkerveer will be blessed by good health and remains to be productive. His thoughts are still needed for the advancement of science, especially in the field of local wisdom. We also hope that Pak Yan will be able to continue to bridge Universitas Padjajaran and Leiden University in the future collaboration. Before I give an overview of the activities of the Center for Digitalization and Development of Sundanese Culture, let me convey about Sundanese in general. Sundanese is one of approximately 1,340 ethnic groups in Indonesia. The Sundanese people generally live in the West Java province, but also in Banten province, on the border of West Java and Central Java, and are scattered in various transmigration areas in Indonesia. Sundanese is the second largest ethnic group in Indonesia after the Javanese. Today in West Java, it is estimated that there are around 35 million Sundanese people, so that when added to other areas, there are around 40 million Sundanese in total, or more than double the population of the Netherlands. Padjajaran, which is the name of our university, is the name of the Sundanese kingdom. As an ethnic group, Sundanese has its own language and culture. Over the time, many languages and culture have been left behind. Many of Sundanese, especially the younger generation, don't use and even ashamed to use Bahasa Sunda, our local language, in their daily life. Even worse, we can see this phenomenon is not only occurring in urban area, but also in the rural area, which are known for its full cultural thickness. For example, most recently nowadays, Even some of real estate residential area names prefer to use foreign language, especially English. Yes, we can live here. Green city view, the green, the Marrakesh, etc., etc. This phenomenon reflects that much of Sundanese culture has been lost in our society, not to mention cultural degradation in other aspects of life, such as literature, music, even in daily norms and values. One of the conclusions of the Second International Sundanese Culture Conference was Sundanese society has experienced a setback in several aspects of life, especially in the field of culture. The most dominant weakness occurs in the information system about Sundanese. Along with the wave of globalization, access to knowledge regarding the Sundanese culture is very limited, so that some people, especially the younger generation, is more likely to lose their ancestral knowledge. The information about the richness of various aspects of Sundanese life in the past is mostly found in books, paper, research results, and other documents which are mostly inaccessible by the people in general. Wars, most of our people not even know of its existence. Some of richness of Sundanese culture, around 100 of Sundanese language media have been published. Thousands of books in Sundanese or about Sundanese which are written in other language, scattered in various places across the globe, including in Netherlands. Hundreds of ancient manuscripts are yet to be discovered and preserved. Image archive, sound recording, important documents, some of which are being kept a personal collection in libraries and are not yet connected to one another. In the course of time, many of these cultural archives were damaged and also lost. For archive in the form of audio or video recording, apart from being threatened with damage and loss due to the absence of tool technological differences, many of which are difficult to access. Without serious management, this will be destroyed and forgotten, a thing that we must avoid to any cost for the sake of our future generation. Thus, preserving our cultural heritage amidst the inevitable wave of globalization in this digital era is very important. For this reason, 1 year ago, we established the Center for Digitalization and Development of Sundanese Culture, Unpad, PDPBS. We would like to express our most sincere gratitude to Bu Rector for her support to this initiative. The most possible effort for the conservation and revitalization of these cultural properties in the current era is through digitalization and digitation. These activities can be categorized as one of the knowledge management system innovation that are being pursued in various countries. EMS is a systematic process of finding, selecting, organizing, sorting, and filtering, and disseminating or presenting information to increase knowledge and conception comprehensively in a wider area. What is being done? First, we sort the inventory by exploring, discovering, and collecting cultural archives. In doing so, we also made repairs for damaged and unreadable archives, such as Archive of Sundanese Song, published in the 20s. Then we digitize those archives into digital form. Digitalization is not merely a conversion, but a dynamic process to maintain its existence, namely by distributing it to the community so that it can be used as a reference. Distribution is carried out via specially created website on other media. Second, we developed software that can enhance the process of digitalization and make it easier for the user to gain access to the archive by providing them with a search engine within the website. So far, the use of this archive has been started by being used in numerous research done by undergraduate and postgraduate students. For example, in the context indigenous knowledge, student studies what kind of medical plants used for bone disease in Sundanese wisdom. Again, the information from ancient archive and Sundanese magazine published nearly a century ago and found that this knowledge are already present in Sundanese culture for a long time as their local wisdom. Up until today, the PDPBS has digitized more than 400 pages of archive from books and magazines published since 19, and more than 50,000 song title come from the forgotten cassette and compact disc. This number is still far from the possibility of books, magazine, tapes that have ever existed and undiscovered. It is estimated that there are still tens of thousands more archives, or around 2 million pages yet to be preserved. There is a long way to go, and we are racing against time, as we certainly don't want to be a nation without a trace, because the people have abandoned the legacy of their ancestors. Finally, one of digitalization is carried out, hopefully the cultural richness that we have will be. By pursuing our effort, we are not only preventing the culture from being extinct, but also conserving our civilization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ganjar, for the presentation regarding the Unpad digitalization of indigenous knowledge. I'm sorry, I forget unmute. Okay, thank you, Professor Ganjar, for the presentation regarding the Unpad digitalization of indigenous knowledge. What an insightful presentation regarding the documentation of the Sundanese ethnic community, which is strongly related to my PhD work about Sundanese. Hopefully, the presentation will also be beneficial for everyone. Now, everyone, before we start discussion session, I would like to welcome Professor Dr. Diploma in Mr. Muhammad Ade Karmadibrata, Magister Research English Science, Ph.D. Professor Ade is a professor in agricultural machinery in Universitas Padjadjaran, and since 1978, has published several scientific papers and books, which among others are Indigenous Knowledge and Home Garden, an interdisciplinary approach and economic and industrial potencies of home garden, as practiced by indigenous people. It is strongly related with our themes today about the indigenous knowledge. And today, Professor Ade will give us introduction about INRIC, a study center of indigenous knowledge, which is developed and co-founded by Professor Slikkerveer, as previously mentioned before, since 1994. Okay, to Professor Ade, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody, and of course for the people on the club. I think now is in the morning in the land in Europe. I think we are all very fine, and this in very broad seminar like this. So I thank you first to the committee that you give me a chance to come and to join this seminar, because I thought before that that I am not involved in this manner, but actually, but it is I am wrong. So now I would like to introduce INRIC as chronological since its establishment in 1994. Okay. I give this the speech. This talk, I'm going to talk about INRIC first. INRIC is a kind of technical executive unit of Indonesian Resource Center for Indigenous Knowledge. In short, INRIC. INRIC is under recognition of the University Padjajaran. So, in short, Unpad. It is one of the technical.
Kenapa sih? Lama kan jam berapa? Jam 12 selesai. Berarti jam setengah 12. Hah? Habis itu jam 12. Masa bukan jam 10? Jam 9? Ah? Jam 12 kurang. Terus tadi jam berapa? Jam 1? Oh, lama muter masa muter-muter lama-lama.
Okay. Some disturbance. So once again, INRIC is one of the technical implementation unit of Unpad. INRIC had been initiated in 1992 by the late Professor Dr. Kusnaka Ademi Haja and Dr. Ukan S. Abdullah of Unpad, and by Professor Dr. L.J. Slikkerveer of the University of Leiden. INRIC resonated by its establishment that was inaugurated in 1994. Its debut started by holding an international conference on indigenous knowledge in Bandung, which was attended by around more than 120 participants from various countries. From various universities, government agencies, non-government institutions, and including participants from abroad, such as from the African, as well. INRIC took part in the 3 years research, 1995 and up to 1997, collaborated with LEAD, funded by European Community on interaction between community and forest in Mount Al-Haliman, West Java. The result of the research has been presented in international seminar in Leiden in 1996 and 1997. From the date on, Unpad INRIC became one of the important components of the international network related to indigenous knowledge and technology system, or IKTS. INRIC aims to document and study local knowledge system, especially in natural resource management, to develop a rural development model and natural resource management based on the cultural value system, providing in the community. The specific objectives are elaborated to promote the use of indigenous knowledge for sustainable ecological development. To disseminate information and current view and experience with indigenous knowledge in the context of development. To inaugurate the Indonesian Resource Center for to contribute to the strengthening of the global network on indigenous knowledge and development. A more specific focus of INRIC's activities is documenting and studying local knowledge related to healthcare, agriculture, and rural resource. INRIC is also part of global network of Center for the Study of Local Knowledge System in the world, including, among others, CIRC, the Netherlands Center of International Research Cooperation, Leiden Ethnosystems and Development Programs, Leiden University, and SICARD, the Center for Indigenous Knowledge for Agriculture and Rural Development of Iowa University. The existence and position of INRIC in the world of IKTS network are very strategic and has become one of the icons to further internalize Unpad in ranks of world universities. Unpad's status as a center for the study of knowledge and technology for a local culture, the interact with the world IKTS must be maintained independently under the rector of the university. Due to operational still uses the facilities on Unpad, it is hoped that it is further fund its activity through domestic and foreign cooperation. INRIC is the only institution that is in an international recognized IKT activity center. So all activities of other IKTS agencies in an institution throughout Indonesia and relations with the national international IKTS network should coordinate one another with INRIC Unpad. The existence and continuity of Unpad INRIC activities, which are increasingly shrinking the echoes, needs to be revitalized and as far as possible be regained and resounded by nationally and internationally. Now I would like to say about the program design. Before the formation of the complete INRIC organization, several strategies for INRIC activities in the future are designed as follows. A short-term strategy, re-socializing the existence of INRIC organization and its activity to all faculty in Unpad as a multidisciplinary IQ center, so that these activities will and need to involve all fields of science under the auspices of Unpad. Reinstate and revitalize the existence and activities of Unpad of INRIC with Leiden and IQ monitor, as well as other related international institution agency. And reinstate and revitalize the existence and activities of INRIC with government institutions such as Ministry of Culture and Education, Agriculture, Communication, Information, Research, Technology, and Social, etc., and non-government organization. Report the sustainable of INRIC activities under the new management to the rector of Padjajaran University. Identifying the status of INRIC's existence in the university environment, especially to regain financial support for the various activities of INRIC from government organization or non-government organization, as well as from internal, external fundings. So this is to urge all faculties, institutions within Unpad to make an inventory matters related to IKTS or local knowledge and technology system in their form and natural social value cultural institution. Appeal to all colleges and university faculties throughout Indonesia to make an inventory of matter relating to IKTS and coordinate with ENRIC. Create a print new ENRIC Unpad leaflet and carrying out routine online, offline, local seminar fortnight or monthly. Be the medium-term strategy. The first, making several research proposals both for domestic and foreign cooperation. And second, inventory of issues and topics that can be cooperated both with faculties, institutions within Padjajaran and outside Padjajaran, as well as with GO and NGO institutions in the country or outside the country. And see the long-term strategy. There are so many, so I will just read some. Carrying out international meeting on IKTs, outsourcing of funding sources from within the country, establishing ethnoscience as one of the study subject within the faculties in the University of Padjadjaran. This is grounded by the fact that the subject would involve various stakeholders related to lives and existence. Recent INRIC activities we have through the years, we have many activities. Among others, this is two. The first is INRIC carried out collaborative project on strategic environmental assessment, KLHS, as a framework for thinking of a special plan for the region of M.SIE Regency, Papua, in 2015 to examine basic data on selected natural resource potential in regional development that can be developed through the application of appropriate technology in M.SIE Regency as an implementation concept and strategies in the context of regional development. The second, INRIC participated also in archipelago exploration activities in 2015, 2016, and 2017, which were initiated by the TNI in Sumatra, Kalimantan, Celebes, Maluku, and Papua, where INRIC takes part in local environmental aspect regarding the documentation and collection of various kinds of flora and fauna in waters and forests. So, as the last, I would like to say about research issues design, among others, is to follow up project proposal about food security and sustainable, and reinstate the relationship with IK monitor around IKT's world and proposal model for preservation of agricultural machinery in a broad sense and their use in local cultural areas. I think that's all what I tell you about INRICS. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ade, for the presentation about the introduction about INRIC as the technical executive unit of research of indigenous knowledge in Unpad. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to start a discussion session. During the presentation session of the speakers, the committee has compiled several questions from the participants. And now the committee will display the question on the screen, and then I will bring the question, and then your question will be answered by our speakers. The first question from Bapak Jaja Sarjana to all speakers. So Francis Bacon in 15th century stated that knowledge is power. How Indonesian can revitalize the use and power of this knowledge is proven by its glory in the era of Kingdom of Sriwijaya, Majapahit, and even Samudra Indonesia. Regarding this question, I will give the question to since our speaker, Professor Slikkerveer, could you please answer the first question from Bapak Jaya Sarjana?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's a great pleasure, and I like the question very much. Mr. Sarjana is referring also to the historical dimension of our work on indigenous knowledge systems and development. And I think that we have learned from history that the way, and that starts already during the colonial period of time in Indonesia, that the approach from Western European countries to bring so-called civilization was indeed not paradise on earth. And I think that when we look into the history of the way in which these local systems have been suppressed, but fortunately have not disappeared. The work of Professor Ganjar Kurnia is very important because he has just shown us that he is making a great effort to digitalize all these documents, and that makes the thousands of documents much more easily acceptable and accessible. And in this way, I think the era of the different kingdoms in Indonesia have also been key roles when it comes to the documentation. And it is not only that knowledge is power, but it's also that the essence of that kind of knowledge is in its application. And that's already the famous motto by Confucius, who saw that knowledge is nice to discuss over a glass of wine if you wish, but we really have entered now into a very complex society where we have to revitalize the knowledge which has been gathered by our forefathers and put it in a new perspective, as we are just witnessing by the interesting overview of Professor Kramadibrata and the efforts of Ibu Wina and the efforts of Ganjar. So I think that my answer is that it is very important, and I wish to conclude my reaction by citing my friend and colleague, Professor Richard Leakey from Kenya, who said, "The past is the key to the future." Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Slikkerveer. Right, the past is the key of the future, and highlighting your answer that the documentation, it is important to revitalize the and power of this knowledge. So, Professor Ganjar Kurnia, could you please give us an additional comment regarding the question from Bapak Jaya Sarjana?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. Like I mentioned before, the idea of our program, the digitalization, the idea is not only preserve or save the archive, but to develop it into something in accordance with the times. The problem is how can we develop it if the data is not there? It is our program. I'm very agree with the statement of from Pak Yan. The past is the key for the future. I think it is that's what we did now with our programs. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Professor Ganjar Kurnia. Professor Ade, as the institution to collect the research of indigenous knowledge, is there any program, particular program in order to revitalize the indigenous knowledge or relating of the glory in our past and history? Regarding the question of Bapak Jaya Sarjana? Do you have any input, Professor Arde, regarding the program of INRIC? Please unmute the speaker. We cannot hear you, Professor Ade.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for the question. Regarding the current activities of INRIC, actually we don't have so much activities right now after several years, because we in INRIC has not I don't know, I don't say that no money, but I think because we don't have so many people in INRIC now, so I and just putting some and write something about in.
Yes, sure. So I hope that in the future we will have an interesting program in INRIC, and then which we could revitalize the power of the indigenous knowledge. Now I will read the second question from Bapak Hikmat Latif to Mr. Slikkerveer. Bapak Hikmat Latif asked that I haven't seen any intellectual property right protocol for local community rising in this seminar. As we know that INRIC has built a good relationship with Kasepuhan community in Halimun, West Java as a pilot project area. Could you please move to the next slide?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's also the question about IPR. Yeah.
Yes.
It always been a problem in indigenous knowledge.
Yes. Let me try to answer this very interesting question by Pa Hikmat. Let's not forget that Pa Hikmat was one of the pioneer students who worked in our project on the development studies of the European Union in Halimun area. And indeed, since that time, we have thought and discussed the issue of traditional property rights. And a pioneer in this field who has also been publishing about it is my friend, the late Professor Daryl Posey, with whom we also did the book on cultural and spiritual values of biodiversity. And of course, I refer you to that publication. But a protocol has always been hampered by two separate issues. One and foremost is the commercial interest from big companies who take over local people's knowledge and practice. There are many examples from pharmacy, but also the famous study in South Africa and Namibia of the cactus, which was used by the local people to extend their energy while hunting activities, and it was taken over by a company who made a product against obesity. And there is a beautiful BBC documentary showing that all these companies tried to escape from paying even 10% or so to the local people. So that's one problem. The huge multi-million-dollar aspect of indigenous knowledge when it has been rediscovered and brought into a new prospect to the global population. Another aspect is, who is the owner of that knowledge? I have written an article about it. On the one hand, you can say, when it comes, for instance, what Professor Ganjar Kurnia just mentioned, the great wisdom and the knowledge of medicinal, aromatic, and cosmetic plants by indigenous healers, dukuns and the dukun beranak and who have you. And of course, we have seen that Ibu Dr. Nanette, who unfortunately is not well today, and we wish her the best, of course, but in her dissertation, she refers also, like Ibu Wina, and of course, like Ibu Maya, they're all paying great attention to local people's knowledge about these medicinal plants. But again, who is the owner? So in the approach with Daryl Posey, we thought that perhaps, since this knowledge is not the possession of one person, but often of a group at the community, a group of healers, of farmers, of sages, you know, and eventually, when it comes to the development of new medicine in Hawaii and in some South American countries, before prospecting for potential medicinal, aromatic, and cosmetic plants, first a lump sum is paid either in money or even in building schools, bridges, and community houses by the external companies before they enter into the field. And we all know that by using the knowledge of these local healers, the possibility to find an effective medicinal plants increases from 5 to nearly 30%. So I'm very happy that Hikmat brings this up, and I think that we should also ask Ganjar and Ibu Wina to pay special attention to at least make an inventory what can be done to protect and to share the knowledge of these local people. Hikmat refers to the Kasepuan, and I remember while we were making this field trip with him to Halimun, that the local people on the one side of the road were using traditional warehouses for their grain and their rice, and it was a good secret how to keep the mice out. And on the other side of the road, more modern-oriented people who were having big problems with mice pests, in fact, wanted also to share this secret approach by the Kasepuan people. And I think that was a beautiful manifestation that people can share this knowledge and also benefit from this knowledge. And that's the way we should look to the future and see that we protect this, what we call traditional property rights, in a good manner in which both the providers and the consumers share the benefit. It's a good question, Pak Hikmat. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for the answer, Professor Slikkerveer. Yes, I do also agree about how we appreciate and return the benefit to the community about the knowledge, despite that when regarding the knowledge that it's not the property, the indigenous knowledge is not the property of one person or only one traditional healer, but just when we get the benefit or potential benefit regarding the development, in my case, maybe the traditional medicine, we do have to return the benefit to the community and acknowledge their knowledge. So the form of the intellectual property right protocol for the local community maybe is not the form of the like IPR certificate that dedicated one knowledge to the one community or one person or one healer, but more than to the traditional documentation and then the return the benefit to the community. Thank you, Professor. And then we will move to the next question from Bapak Setiawan to all speakers. How indigenous knowledge deals with the advancement of science and technology. Is there any benefit situation in which the indigenous knowledge can take advantage the cutting edge of technology? How can we achieve? So how do we relate the indigenous knowledge and the development and advancement of science and technology? I will first give the floor to Professor Ade Kramadibrata for answering the question. Please, Professor Ade.
Okay, I have to think about that. First, you know, the indigenous knowledge is actually a local knowledge, which now also in comparison with the technology, this is a very huge, very far between the indigenous and the modern technology. Actually, there is still some relation between that, because the modern science, advancement science and technology, still based from indigenous knowledge. For example, as we now see the current situation with Corona, it is maybe a very new virus. How the technology, how the local science can overwhelm this disease. And you know, there are so many saying about how to take, how to what is it, how to handle this disease. And it is very easy by the science of indigenous knowledge. For example, and it is if we doing the modern science, it is very expensive, and so many things have to be done. But in the local indigenous knowledge, it is maybe it is not really right, but actually, if I see this is very, very easy. For example, if you if there are somebody must couch and the fungus the virus stop the breathing, so you have to just to make the motion how you can sit and doing like you are sujud in salat when you, okay, if you salat, so your head is down on the floor, but and you couch there, so it is and it is proof that the couch not the couch but the slime in the lungs will be out, and and if you do that so many times, in fact the man the ill man will be, yeah, better. So something like that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Professor Ade. So, uh, I was reminded by the committee that the time of the session is unfortunately over, so I have to close this interesting discussion session. So for all other participants who are still have question, you can all write down your question and we will deliver the question to the presenter or speakers, and we will put the answer or the comment at the YouTube, since this event is also streamed online on YouTube, and you can repeat the show again, and you can also check the answer from all the speakers. And now, ladies and gentlemen, finally we come to the end of the first session, and I would like to say thank you to Professor Slikkerveer, Professor Ganjar, and Professor Ade for the insightful presentation, and also to all of the audience for your participation. It is an honor to be your moderator for the session today. Now, I will hand it over to my colleague, Ibu Sri Indriani. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for respectable speakers for a very insightful presentation, and the moderator, Ibu Maya, who has led a well-rounded discussion. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us continue again to our next discussion with respectable speakers, Ibu Dr. Marta Tilaar, which will be presented by Ibu Nuning Barwa, and then Mr. Patrick Maundu, Ph.D., and Bapak Kurniawan Saifullah, Ph.D. And the discussion will be led now by Ibu Rainidia, Master of Nursing, as the moderator. I would like first to read her CV. So Ibu Rainidia Diah Susanti, born in Sumedang, finished her bachelor degree of science in nursing in University of Indonesia in 2002. Her master degree in Flinders University, South Australia, and currently is a PhD candidate at Leiden University in the Netherlands. She has won many awards, one of which is the Dicty Scholarship Awardee. She has also published many articles related on gerontology nursing, community health, and transcultural nursing. So ladies and gentlemen, I present you Ibu Rainidia as our second moderator for the last session.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Indri. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning, Professor Slikkerveer. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry?
Thank you very much. Nice to see you.
Yeah, once more, happy belated birthday. Yeah.
Thank you.
Many
Thank
happy
you very much.
birthday and many years to come, Professor.
Thank you, Ibu. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome to this session of the International Seminar today. I'm Raini and I will be the moderator for this session. We are so excited that all participants were able to join us today. We believe we have great presentation coming up for you, and we are going to talk about three exciting topics from three distinguished speakers. A couple of things to keep in mind throughout this broadcast. You can ask questions, so feel free to submit it in the chat box that you will see on there. And what we happen to answer them at the end when we have in the login Q&A time. As we have limited allocated time, so each speaker will have a maximum of 15 minutes to do the presentation. Okay, without further ado, let us introduce our speakers today. We are delighted to have Dr. Marta Tilaar, and right now will be represented by Ibu Mrs. Nuning Warwa, Mr. Patrick Maundu, and Dr. Kurnia with us, who are the expert on indigenous knowledge system and development. Thank you for being here with us. Now, let's start with the first speaker, the Honorable Dr. Marta Tilaar. Unfortunately, due to some reason, our deepest condolences of the loss of her family. So Mrs. Nuning Esparwa, MBA, as Supervisor of Creative Corporate and Innovative of Marta Tilaar Group, will assist to present and answer the question. As we all know, Dr. Marta Tilaar is a successful and inspiring woman, also the founder and chairwoman of Marta Tilaar Group. She has so many awards and achievements for her dedication in Indonesian culture conservation, especially in creating cosmetic and kampung jamu organic. She was bestowed Doctor Honoris Causa for Fashion and Artistry from the World University of Tucson, Arizona, USA in 1984. And become the best CEO of the year 2001 in category Herbal Industry from SWA and Mars magazine. Dr. Marta Tilaar has been awarded as Tokoh Wanita Penggerak Kewirausahaan from Ministry of Cooperative and SMEs, Republic of Indonesia, and a lot of other achievements which I could not mention one by one. She has a wealth of knowledge and experience with indigenous knowledge to develop an inclusive business of Marta Tilaar Group that she is going to share with everyone today. So please welcome Ibu Nuning as representative of Dr. Marta Tilaar. The time is yours.
Thank you, Rani. Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay, this is just like the reunion again, yeah.
Nice to see you.
Okay. Firstly, we want to convey the message from Dr. Tilaar, who was apologized that she could not join this seminar because of the loss of her only brother, Dr. Bambang Handana. She wished this seminar will be held successfully. Secondly, we want to thank you to the Honorable Rector Unpad, Professor Dr. Hajjah Rina Indiastuti, and the whole committee of this international webinar seminar to give us the chance to share our experiences in the inclusive business by exploration our indigenous knowledge. Thirdly, we wish the best for Professor Dr. Slikkerveer for his 79th birthday yesterday. May God bless you eternally. Finally, thank you to Mbak Dr. Wina Erwina, Cek Maya Febrianti, and Ibu Sri Seti Indriani, and of course, Cek Reni Dia Susanti.
Om even kijken.
And now we want to convey the video of Dr. Tilaar. I hope the rector of Unpad and all speaker and all webinar participant will learn something from Dr. Tilaar activity.
Dear Professor Slikkerveer, we wish you have a wonderful 79th birthday. May God bless you with long life and good health and happiness life with Ibu Medi.
Jammer dat ik het niet groter vind.
Dear Professor Dr. Rina Indiastuti, Rector Universitas Padjajaran, and your staff, especially Dr. Wina, who give us the opportunity to participate in the International Seminar of Indigenous Knowledge and Science. Since the beginning, the company has blended business, social, and ecology principles. As a beauty company, we explore the ancient wisdom of beauty care throughout the life cycle based on Rupa Sampat Wahya Biantara. That beauty is a balanced reflection of inner and outer beauty. We have transformed and blended the richness of Eastern culture and Indonesian natural resources to be the soul of our brand and service to win the heart of consumers around the globe. Since the beginning, Marta Tilaar Group has done several activities regarding the sustainability practices. We do our business not just profit-oriented, but we commit in considering people and planets. Within 50 years old of growing, the company became respectable by national and global communities, including our business competitors. The reputation of our company is more internationally recognized as a trendsetter producing natural techno beauty products that continuously merge with the richness of our Eastern culture, where we transform the local wisdom that's supported by scientific data to meet the urban lifestyle and go global. Reason to develop inclusive business. 1. Creating innovation. The second, contribution to improve people's lives. Third, ensure sustainability and traceability. 4. Create market competitiveness. 5. Income generation. To achieve inclusive business, generate opportunities for all. Key strategy for inclusive business. 1. Focus on our core business as beauty and herbal company. 2. Dream big, start small, and work fast. 3. The creative and innovative based on
Oh, just for the technical problem, maybe you can fast forward. Ibu Nuning, please.
Okay, wait a moment. Oh.
Ach god, dit laat niet, dat is te gewoon.
Ja, vind ik ook hoor. Het is stressverhogend. Dat ik dat niet groter kan krijgen. En als ik aan kloot, dan valt het weg.
Als je dat doet,
Nee, dat niet meer. Het kan. Een keurige boekenkast als te
Maybe
zitten.
the committee, could you please back up the video?
Yes, I think you can. Yesterday I give you the video.
Yes, please committee to share screen to assist Ibu Nuning, or you can back up to present the video.
Oh. Sorry, I tried. When we try, it's no technical problem. Now suddenly technical.
Of Indonesia, biodiversity for global market. 5 farmers partnership by strengthening their capability in good agriculture and post-harvest treatment practices. 6 empower women to be smart and perseverance.
8 build partnership with multi-stakeholders.
Thanks God, then in year 2000, I have appointed as founder member of the UN Global Compact, the biggest NGO in the world that initiate and lead by Secretary General Mr. Kofi Annan. We have demonstrated continuously our effort to meet 10 principles of UN Global Compact. In 2018, I have been elected SDG Pioneers for Advanced Sustainable through Community Development. We share our value and knowledge through books dedicated to the wisdom of our ancestors. We have 4 CSR pillars. Started with 1. Beauty education. Together with Professor Slikkerveer from Leiden, we set up professorial chair in Leiden University in 2000. Focus on medical anthropology and ethnobotany. And also we set up Puspita Marta International Beauty School as the biggest beauty school in Indonesia. Second, Beauty Green. We established the Kampung Jamu Organic in Cikarang and educate farmers through organic farming.
Ya, saya petani kumis kucing. Sudah lama sebetulnya di kumis kucing, hampir 15 tahun. Dulu produksi kumis kucing saya rendah dan harga pun juga rendah. Sejak ada pembinaan dari Marta Tilar, produksi kumis kucing saya meningkat dan harga pun juga tinggi. Selain kumis kucing kami kirim ke Marta Tilar, juga kumis kucing kami kepake buat ke luar negeri.
Abdi petani kumis kucing, sepeninggalan suami Abdi. Alhamdulillah saat tos dibina ku Marta Tilaar, penghasilan Abdi lebih sae, hutang Abdi lunas. Abdi biasanya kalakeun urang kali di Universitas UNJ.
Then conducted Padjadjaran, the UN Water Mandate program in collaboration with local stakeholders. The third is beauty culture. We conducted Jamu exhibition with the collaboration of Marta Tilaar Foundation and World Think Tank of the Leiden University, Netherlands, that leads by Professor Slikkerveer. My University Greek, Padjajaran University, and the National University of Singapore. Jamu exhibition has been held successfully in Bandung, 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 Bandung.
Committee, please.
Sorry.
Maybe you can back up the video.
Sorry,
It's okay.
too many problems. Can this is
Kang Krishna, could you please share screen the video of Dr. Martha Tilaar?
Oh.
Can you handle it, Ibu Nuning? Oh, okay.
Okay, I have to open first and then I will. Because I cannot also speed up.
Have a wonderful 79th birthday. May God bless
Termandi program in collaboration with local stakeholders. The third is beauty culture. We conducted Jamu exhibition with the collaboration of Martha Tilaar Foundation and World Think Tank of the Leiden University, Netherlands, that leads by Professor Slikkerveer. My University Greek, Padjadjaran University, and the National University of Singapore. Jamu exhibition has been held successfully in Bandung, Crete, Leiden, and Singapore. We also established Rumah Martha Tilaar for promoting entrepreneurial spirit and culture development fellowship. The fourth, empowering women. We empower beauty entrepreneurship through empowering Jamu Gendong. From Zero to Hero, this book consists of several stories of Martha Tilaar Salon beauty therapists. They have been served for years and come from different backgrounds. Started with minimal education background, but willing to learn and work hard so they can successfully lift up their families. Spa Therapist Martha Tilaar Training Center has been developed in the year 1998 to avoid women trafficking and dedicated for young women from marginal families to be competent, well-trained, and professional spa therapists. Thank you. We wish you all Merry Christmas and Happy New Year 2021. May God bless us in the coming year.
Okay. Thank you
very much, and sorry for this twice problem of submission.
It's okay.
Wish all the best.
Yeah. Thank you, Ibu Nuning, for the representative of Dr. Martha Tilaar for such fascinating video presentation, very inspiring, especially to empower the community based on indigenous knowledge. Okay, now we are going to the next presentation from the second speaker, Mr. Patrick Maundu. Unfortunately, we do apologize due to technical problem. His location is in a remote field work in Kenya. So Mr. Patrick Maundu could not be able to speak in this event. And Mr. Patel Muiruri, the deputy of the Kenya Resource Center for Indigenous Knowledge, or CANRIC, will be the one who will do the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Patel Muiruri. The time is yours.
Hello, hello, participants of
Hello.
the
Hi.
conference.
Okay. Hello, Pak Patrick. Nice to see you.
I'm really privileged to be a speaker in this conference. I'm in the field. I'm in the southern part of Kenya, next to the border with Tanzania. I'm doing exactly what we are talking about. I'm with a team of researchers from Kenya Resource Center for Indigenous Knowledge, documenting Indigenous knowledge. Before Patel speaks, because he's the one who has the presentation, I would like to introduce the local communities, indigenous communities, known as the M.SIE, who are speaking to us this today. Sema. Suwaoling is
Hello.
hi.
Good morning in Nairobi.
Suwaoling.
Good morning. Yeah.
Suwaoling.
Hi.
And yeah, so we are documenting their use of plants, especially in medicine and also food. And with me is also a team of researchers from KENRIC, National Museums of Kenya. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Fiona Njagi.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Yasu Morimoto. Hi.
Yes, and yeah, with that introduction, I can give the floor to Mr. Patel Muiruri, who will do the presentation. But all protocols observed, I would like to really appreciate the university for hosting this, and all the people we have met. Thank you for including us in this. Patel, your turn.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick. It's a really virtual reality.
Thank
yeah,
you.
from the field work. Yeah. Okay, success for your field work, Patrick. Yes, please welcome Mr. Patel Muiruri to present.
Thank you everyone. So good morning and good afternoon.
Yeah, good
Many
morning.
people speak good morning. So I will be doing the presentation which was meant to be done by Patrick. So I'm stepping in for Patrick, and the presentation will be on the 18 years of Kendrick on documenting and working on indigenous knowledge. So actually part of this presentation will complement my major presentation from Professor Slikkerveer. We met 18 years ago. I don't know if you remember. Here in the same office I'm sitting in, and also from the explanation or presentation of Adi on INRI. So if I may share the presentation, the screen. Sorry. Can I move forward next? Okay. So KENRIC, which stands for Kenya Resource Center for Indigenous Knowledge, is part of the global network for indigenous knowledge and research. And here in museum is under the CBD, which is the Center for Biodiversity Department, under the bigger Directorate of National Repository and Research under museum. Next slide, please. Okay. So KENRIC, the background on KENRIC, it started early in 1990s under the global network. Under now the lead and SICAD, Professor Slikkerveer and Professor Ade presented. And its objective was to document and analyze IK knowledge and provide database for decision making as concerned to development, social development. So due to the increase in realization, to the growing realization and importance of indigenous knowledge on the global scale. Kendrick in 1992 was formed and, under the guidance of Professor Slikkerveer and Professor I'm not able to control my slides. Can
maybe Pak Krista, could you help to move the slide, please?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So, like I was saying, Kendrick was formed under the World Decade. In 1992 is when now Kendrick was established in the National Museum under the guidance of Professor Slikkerveer and Professor. So, next slide, please. Yeah. So the main programs which Kendrick undertakes over the period of time, we have worked on traditional foods. We have also documented on diverse agricultural knowledges and farming systems here in Kenya and some part of East Africa, in Uganda and also in Tanzania. We have also worked on traditional medicine and medicinal plants, including ethnoveterinary from the pastoralist community. We also worked with the traditional houses, the construction and also material conservation. Also worked on sacred sites, groves, mainly from ancestral during the pre-colonial times. And also we have worked on indigenous forest management. Currently, where Patrick is in Loita, they are working the community as what we call indigenous forests and also major part of coastal area and northern Kenya. So we have worked with those communities, not only documenting their usage on the forest, but also working with them in developing what we call the management plans for ensuring the sustainable use of those indigenous forests. And also we due to the incoming technology, we are working on developing tools for open access tools actually in the form of mobile apps to advance on how actually community can access their knowledge and also intervene on some of areas that we are concerned in, especially in food, where we know malnutrition and also a lack of food. So we are actually synchronizing what we call season calendars and also nutrition values, so that community can have this information at hand and they can intervene when it comes to food programs and also nutrition. Next slide, please. So one of the areas we have worked intensively is traditional foods, and mainly a bigger chunk of what that traditional food goes through the traditional vegetables, as we call African leafy vegetables. And Kendrick has a huge database on that, including recipes, where we have over 850 edible plant species and over 400 fruits and 210 vegetables. And these are traditional, not introduced, mainly, as we know, actually, majority of the introduced vegetables are from the brassica, the kale family, where we have the Brassica carinata, where we, in local language, we call scumawikia, but here we are talking about the indigenous ones, the solanum, the cloteria, and the rest. So next slide. So with that information, we have an inventory, and majority of which is not published. It's not out there. It's still it's still in our computers as database. So with this platform for publication, it will be of great help for us to put it out there for people to access it and to make sense of what we have in store. So, and also as we worked on traditional foods, we developed a kind of a program, an approach, a methodology where we kind of bridge the gap or top-bottom gap where the elders can teach the young ones on traditionals and their associated beliefs. We call it traditional foodways. And this will involve pupils, school primary going kids in getting those information from their elders. So that methodology was developed as part of documentation, and I will share more on that as we go on. Then we have also the value addition and promotion, where we carry out food fairs here in museum and associated institution in Kenya, and sometimes outside Kenya, and also food analysis, where I've introduced now the new tool we are developing called IDTIT on food and nutrition. So some of the traditional foods, as we know, every community have their own traditional foods. So we have tried the level best we could to document all of it, those traditional foods, and we have gone further in analysis of some of those major traditional foods for nutrition analysis, and table down the content for each. So next slide. So like I was saying, every community has their own cross-cutting across the country. As we know, Kenya is a multi-linguistic country. We have about 48 to 50 languages, and each of those communities pride in their own cultures, including food. Next slide. And slide. So, like I was saying, in early 2000, the program on LVs was initiated, and we concentrated on traditional food, vegetables. We know they are looked down in Kenya. I don't know about the other countries. In Kenya, people consumed before early 2000. People consumed traditional foods in LVs majorly were associated with poverty and also backwardness. So people treasured the introduced kale as the major, as food for the rich or food for enlightened. But with time, that has changed with the promotion and also with teaching and collection. People have come to appreciate the indigenous vegetables, and it has been taken well by the community, especially around the urban areas. Next slide. So an example, demonstrate an example of analysis, nutritional analysis on a comparison between an amaranth and cabbage, a kale, where you can see amaranth has iron content, vitamin C content, B-carotene, a precursor of vitamin B, then vitamin B, calcium, and potassium. Yes. Then what cabbage has more is water, and if nothing else, that cabbage can has over the amaranth. And amaranth is a local, it's a local vegetable, a common one indeed in Kenya and also many places. So this tells you the value of the traditional foods and the value of traditional vegetables over now the introduced when it comes to nutrition value. So this information is quite critical when we are promoting the traditional foods to the community. We are telling them the value of their own food, not to treasure the incoming meat, which is expensive to buy, and traditional food they grow on their own in the farms, especially now during the rainy season. Next slide. Next slide. So, like I said, being a multi-diverse community in Kenya, we have the same applies to the diversity of food, and also now seasonality and profiles. When the last time Professor was here, we were starting what we have here in Kendrick. We have a Kendrick garden. That garden we use to what we call seed backing for majorly the traditional vegetables, which we have started a fellowship with the local communities around Nairobi, the urban and the peri-urban areas, and some others in rural areas, especially in Western. We provide seeds, training, and also those seeds are selected seeds after bulking, selected seeds. So last time Professor Slikkerveer was here, he asked what are the current innovation we were doing at Kendrick. And that garden was a major innovation where we realized farmers around the area, they have no access to better seeds, better local seeds. And they are not able to make their own. When after planting, they harvest all of the plant. They don't leave selected trees or selected, yes, for seeds. So we took that initiative where we came up with a garden in courtesy of museum, provided a piece of land here at the museum. So we used that garden for seed backing. And also recently we also diversed to cereals. Like you see in the photo, it's one of our local maize collection from the farm. So the next one. Yeah. So for food seasonality and profiles, is critical when it comes to food security. As you know, traditional foods or wild and local foods, they have seasonal, what we call seasonal profiles. And those are important to bridge the gap when it comes to food security. Some foods, like wild foods, mature at a different seasons, and those seasons, especially for the kids who are under 5. I don't know about the other countries. In Kenya, local communities treasure those, especially kids who go hunting and also grazing. They feed on those foods, and those foods actually gap those food securities. They might not be having the major meal like maize during that period, but they are covered by the wild fruits and cereals in the forest. Next. So yeah, with our work on that, we have tried to give back to the community, that information to the community, but on the research based on the scientific platform, we have not done much when it comes to publication on those major findings on traditional foods and indigenous knowledge. So with this, next slide. These are foods in the market, the traditional vegetables. See, they are next to the kales, but they are the major ones. Next. Next one is for the pastoralists, the diversity on foods. Next slide. Yeah. Jam Plasm and collection of indigenous knowledge by China Women Group. Yeah, this is what we the collection, what we brought in the museum. Next slide. Yeah, I was talking about publication. We have, like I was saying, we have tried to take back to the community after documentation in form of pamphlets and other forms of publication. But we haven't done much when it comes to research on scientific platform, not research, documentation and publication on scientific platform. So when the presentation started, actually I was so eager. I was actually, this answered actually majority, actually the main question we have been having here at the museum on how to put this information on platform, scientific platform for people to access it. Like I said, we have a huge database and information still sitting in our computers. So this journal will help us actually have this information out there. Next one. Next. Yeah. So yeah, we are running a race against time. As we know now, majority, the huge number of our elders who are the keepers of this information is going down. Actually, we are losing this information. So there's the urgent need actually to document and use this knowledge to develop programs for development for the local communities, either in socioeconomics, nutrition, and also for medicine. So this need an urgency when it comes to documenting. Next one. So previously I talked about the top-bottom approach. We document, or we came up with, where now pupils, primary school pupils, we are being used to learn from their mothers, from their father, from their elders, and document themselves, write in form of stories, and we publish these stories as part of the IK. So this has been so successful, and the methodology has been voted by UNESCO as one of the best practices in IK documentation. So we are proud to be pioneers in food waste, traditional food waste methodology approach, where we tested actually in several projects, and we are still using it, and some few publications are coming up based on this new methodology. Next one. So in nutshell, so documentation of Kenyan food has been done over that years, but the publication on the scientific platform is still an issue. So that needs to be handled, and we are proud to be part of this. This solves that huge gap of publication. Then the need for sensitization, cultural diversity, seasonality, area of specificity, then the feedback to the community. So with this, we think these are the major areas or issues where Kenyan partners on IK, we are behind or we lack. Next one. Next slide. So thank you. So that's.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Patel.
That's the presentation of.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mr. Patemuiriri, for such fantastic works to document indigenous knowledge, especially the traditional foodways of communities in Kenya for over 30 years. So long ago, yeah. We were enjoying the presentation, and we are going to proceed to the next speaker. Last but not least, Dr. Kurnia Saifullah. He is head of Magister of Management Science program at Faculty of Economic and Business Universitas Padjajaran. He is also a senior consultant at TUW Consultant Indonesia and also a guest researcher at Leiden University since 2010. Dr. Kurniawan has completed his master in economics from International Islamic University Malaysia and Ph.D. in ethnoeconomics and ethno-development from Leiden University, the Netherlands. Dr. Kurniawan also is the author of several books, book chapters, and scientific papers published about indigenous institution and development, management, and microfinance. Now, he will share to everyone about the roles of communities and indigenous institutions in sustainable development. Please welcome Dr. Kurniawan Saifullah. Time is yours.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rina Susanti. First of all, I would like to thank you to Professor Rina Indiastuti, Rector of Universitas Padjadjaran, who has supported and opened this international seminar on indigenous knowledge for sustainable development. I would like also to thank you to Professor Slikkerveer and of course Ibu Medi Slikkerveer who are joining together with us today. And also wishing a very best happy birthday to Prof. Slikkerveer. Wish you very good luck and happiness in the future. And I would like also to thank you here to welcome all my seniors, my teachers, Professor Ganjar Kurnia, who has supported me from the beginning of my Ph.D. research, Professor Tati Yusron, Professor Ade Ramadibrata. One by one, I cannot mention. I do apologize. Here also Professor Ibu Ponpon, Professor Safril, and the others, of course, and my dean, Professor Rudi Aziz, and especially to the organizing committee, in particular Dr. Wina Erwina, and the marvelous team who has been unrestlessly prepare this international seminar. So I would like to start, if I may, with my presentation. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon to all of you. I understand this. I will be the last presenter, so I have to be very quick because I'm sure you all have many questions. Although I have many slides to be presented, but I will just skip to the most important factors that I would like to share with all of you, and hopefully we will have nice discussions. The title of my presentation is The Roles of Indigenous Institutions and Communities in Sustainable Development. And this is the outline of my presentations. But particularly, I divided my presentation into two: development and its discourse, and then cultural dimension of development, and the roles of communities and indigenous institutions in sustainable development. So initially, I've been prepared for this sequence, but considering the time limit, I will just make a quick. So basically, when we talk about development, we are referring to any process or any programs or any projects or any transformation that has an ultimate objective of to enhance well-being of people or community or the whole society or country. So basically, the key words of development objective is well-being. However, most of development planners or development policymakers, they are solely focusing on the economic aspect of development, while development itself, according to many authors, from Allen, Professor Slikkerveer, or Warren Slikkerveer and Brokenshire, Todaro and Smith, they are stating that development is not solely an assessment of a particular subject, but it is a multidisciplinary. So therefore, when we talk about well-being, it should be seen not from a single indicator or a single measure. If you look at the current discourse on well-being, most of the well-being measured by the achievement of certain level of income. It is shown by the United Nations. If you look at how World Economic Situation Prospect define those who reach well-being or those who are not, it is based on income. Although nowadays United Nations and the World Bank have been expanding the measurement. However, the main indicator still on the income. An economist from Bath University, Sarah White, in 2009, redefined the concept of well-being. And she divided between doing well, feeling good, which is more focusing on the material aspect of well-being, and doing good, feeling well, which is focuses on the simultaneous achievement, both material and non-material dimension of well-being. By referring to the citation by Siddiqui from Bangladesh, in Bangladesh there is a notion said, we live in happiness with rice, clothes, and respect. So it is not only rice and clothes, but also respect will determine the happiness. So based on that matter, so the definition of well-being has been criticized. So it should be expanded not only from material aspect of human being, but also from subjective and humans, which I will not go further on that. You may refer to the work of Sarah White. So based on that well-being indicators, it is not surprising that the United Nations in 2000 put poverty as the main goal to be achieved. And poverty, as we know from the indicator of income measured by the poverty line. So you can see it in the 2000 Millennium Development Goals. And then according to the United Nations in 2015 and the research by Kafuma in 2017, more than 1 billion people has been lifted up from poverty line, according to their research. However, if you look at also from the World Inequality Database in 2018, as well as the work of W. Norris et al. In 2015, the development or the implementation of SDGs, although it is lifting up more than 1 billion people, however, the disparities also increases. You could see from this graph, since 1990, especially since 2000, the disparities among Asian and African countries based on their income is become wider and wider. It shows that although the poverty claimly has been minimized or reduced, but the disparity is wider and wider. So this gives us kind of continuous homework. Therefore, in 2015, as we all know, that the United Nations then announced the new agenda of development, what we call a sustainable development agenda, and from 17 goals, as we could see, poverty is still the primary goal, well-being is mentioned in the SDGs, and sustainable cities and communities are included in the agenda. So it brings up, if we would like not only measure with income, then how we could see. First, I would like to bring the critics to the neoliberalism perspective on development, where neoliberalism perspective, according to Hervey and the others, focuses on the achievement of individuals. So if you reach your well-being, it is because as an individual you do good, or you do your best effort. While this and secondly, the involvement or the role of government is minimizing in the neoliberalism perspective on development. While Safar Delat and McQuarrie in 2006 stated that most of economists, in particular in development studies, they study more on the macro level and the micro level. They forgot or they neglect the rules between the two, or we can call it as meso level. And in this part is the rule of community. So community is not individual, but not also government. So in this context, then we bring the idea of how community should be included in development. Why? Because according, for instance, in the Sundanese cosmology, human or man is not an individual agent. It is a part of cosmos, a part of the universe, which they cannot be separated. So you cannot really rely on individual, because what we have now as an individual is a part of a contribution from all people in this world. Even our birth is, of course, is a part of contribution of our parents, as well as our development become what we are today. So in this part, we bring to the importance of cultural dimension in development, where my professor, together with my Koran and David Blokensha in 1995, underscores the importance of cultural dimension in development. Woodley et al. Said the absence of cultural consideration in development policies and implementation would lead to the failure to the achievement of development objectives. So this is the point that I would like to mention. And the keywords for the cultural dimension in development, we should look at from the emic view of development instead of the ethic view. So we should listen from the perspective of the people in the communities rather than the perspective of ourselves, as for instance, as a development planners or from outside of the communities. What's best for the communities is it should be best from the community's perspective. There are plenty of authors who measure the importance of cultural dimension in development, especially the role of communities. Some of them are Marston in 1994 and Elofam in 2010, and they basically mentioned that the absence of cultural understanding would lead to the failure of any development project and programs. So now I would like to enter in terms of communities. There are two things that play important roles. First one is the indigenous cosmologies or indigenous culture, some people said, because some research also said cosmology is also a part of cultures. And then secondly, the indigenous institutions. So there are plenty of discussion about what's the distinction between institution and organization, but institution is larger concept than organization. Organization is more the formal institution, while institution is larger. It includes like norms, beliefs, and ways of seeing things, way of doing things. So institution is a larger concept in this context. So secondly, I would like to mention about that any cultures in any communities in the world, they are influenced by what they call as cosmology. So cosmology is the way of seeing things, the way of humans seeing themselves, humans seeing the universe, humans seeing other beings. So by using the example of Sundanese, for instance, Sundanese cosmology of Titangtu, Sundanese believes that in order for us to reach well-being that I just mentioned in the beginning, people should maintain the balance between three realms, the balance between human and human, human and earth, and human and gods. So this goes back to the work of Davis by West in my dissertations. Cosmology that we should live in harmony with our blood, we should live in harmony with our neighbor, we should live in harmony with our community. That's also how this Tritangtu as a cosmology, or three forms or three principles, influence Sundanese cultures, communities, and institutions. So lastly, I would like to show you how this cosmology influenced the way Sundanese people, as an example, in live. For instance, in the landscape division, Sundanese believe that if we build landscape, we should divide into three types of landscape, like upper landscape, Tonggo, Girang, middle landscape, and lower landscape. So upper landscape should not be built by any building, etc. And then secondly, like housing. Housing also Sundanese use this three principle: upper side, middle side, and lower side. They put upper side for something not human. I mean, it's the place for Sundanese call para. Para means rooftop or roof. So para should be allocated for being then human, while human beings should be live in the middle side, and the lower side should be given to other human and the being then human. For instance, animals, etc., etc. So this is the type of Sundanese houses. Mostly they implement these three principles. This is one of the example of pictures of Sundanese house when I did my field research in Subang of West Java. And the three tangtu principle of Sundanese also, Sundanese cosmology also implemented in the way they build water reservoir systems. They divide into three parts of Cai Tonggo, Cai Panampungan, and Cai Panganggoan. And you could see also the similar way of doing this water management system in Bali cultures, where they has been established for many generations, the institution of Subak, and they refer to the principle from Raja Purana Ulun Danu Batur, influenced by Hinduism cosmology, and it follow in line with the principle of physics, where water flows from the upper landscape to the lower landscape. So it should be built on that one. You could see this is the example of the pictures how the today's implementation of that water management system in Bali. Also in arts and dance on Sundanese. And you may probably ask whether it is also implemented in Indonesia or not. If you look at the various research, we could also find this kind of indigenous cosmology institution are also implemented in different places around the globe. For instance, Indonesian institution of Gadugi in North America, male and female cooperate each other in taking care of elder people. Indigenous institution of M.SIE in Ireland is a household mutual voluntary aid in agricultural communities. Indigenous culture of Talcott, for instance, in North Europe, Finland, Sweden, and Estonia. Indigenous institution of Dugnad in Norway, in building house by communities, similar to my research in Subang. Indigenous institution of IMES in Turkey is a community of volunteers in building community infrastructures. Indigenous institution of Minca in Ecuador, Bolivia, Chile, Peru is the communities who use Cueca and Aymara languages. And of course in Sudan, indigenous of Nafir for building infrastructures. And lastly, but not least, indigenous institution of Harambi in Tanzania and Ujaba is kind of a cooperation based on brotherhood and communities. So the last question which might arise is whether this indigenous institution reject or do not accept modern influence. Not at all. That's why I would like to conclude my presentation by first referring to the research by Donora Rock and Godrego, who concluded that the utilization of high-performing traditional institutions has effectively reduced inequalities among local people and alleviate poverty. And secondly, the work by Wetson, the Indigenous Community Institution of Gada in Ethiopia has contributed effectively in the development of community. And lastly, according to the recent model by Professor Slikkerveer, who introduced the integrated community managed development, introduced the IKS-based integration model, which means modern and traditional institutions should be married together. So we take a base from both worlds. So that will be my end of my presentation. So thank you very much. I apologize for any shortcomings because of the limited time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kurnia Saifullah, for the beautiful presentation. And we proceed to the question and answer session. If you have any question, please submit it in the chat box and the committee will compile the question. Is there any question? Not yet. Okay. Meanwhile, we are waiting for the question from the participant. I'm wonder with Mr. Patrick Richard and Mr. Patel in the presentation. There are so many variety of traditional food in Kenya, and had already documented more than 200 recipes. So my question is, how do communities in Kenya process the food before consuming the food or serving on the table? Is there any traditional special treatment to get maybe more nutrient of the food, or maybe what is the typical food in Kenya? Maybe Mr. Patel could answer the question, please.
I think Mr. Patrick is on too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there. I saw Patrick Maundu is on. So
Oh, okay. Okay. Yes, maybe Mr. Patrick could answer.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for the question. As Mr. Patel said, we have many ethnic groups in the country, 50 of them plus. In the part of the country where I am in M.SIE land. Local community is known as the M.SIE, and they normally, their main food is milk, and sometimes they mix the milk with blood. They puncture the jugular vein with a small arrow, and then the blood drips on a gourd, and then they mix that blood with milk, and that's very nutritious. They also eat meat occasionally, but the main use of meat is preparing soup, just boiling the meat. And there are more than 100 herbal plants which they mix, they boil with the soup. One as flavor, as a source of flavor. The roots are a source of flavor, but also to prevent diseases, and also for curative purposes. It's a custom of the M.SIE to boil meat with herbal plants. At a go, they can boil like 10 plants mixed together. And because hospitals are not common around here, that is their main sort of way of keeping themselves healthy. But if you move to other parts of the country, you find they grow foods, different type of foods depending on the location, and depending on where you are, the preparations will vary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
Hello.
Hello, yes.
Hey, maybe to add on what Patrick has said, in Kenya, majority of those community, maybe more than 50% of Kenyan community, their backbone will be made of cereals and maize mainly. So you see maize plus beans, maize plus other cereals, or maize as flour. So like he said, depending on where you are, food is different, but more than 50% of Kenyan communities, cereals form the backbone of their main meals.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Mr. Patrick and Mr. Patel. Maybe one question for Dr. Kurniawan. Could you please explain what kind of the example for indigenous institution for poverty reduction? Hello.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much, Ibu Rina Susanti, and thank you very much, Pak Dr. Asep Mulyana. I'm delighted also with Pak Dr. Asep who attended my PhD promotions last year. So he still remember, of course, the some of the role of indigenous institution in poverty reductions. In my research, I did, with the supervision of Professor Slikkerveer, I did research in Sundanese area in Subang. And in Subang, there is an indigenous institution named Gintingan. Some researchers said Gantangan. So it came from the word of Gantang. Gantang is the scale measure of paddy rice or rice. So in Subang, if a household has a very big needs, in Sundanese we call it hajat, from Arabic terms, hajat is very primary or big needs. They need, they ask support from other community members. So the household asks to the community members, and then the community members will contribute to this household with paddy rice. And based on their contribution, they could do any purpose, in this particular for hajatan. And this form also has been adapted in one of the villages which I did my study in Chimanglit. The form is not merely to help the household in, for instance, doing hajatan or kind of religious festivities, but also to build house. As you may wish, if you may know that in this modern world, modern times, if you have less money and you would like to have a house, then you have to go to any mortgage or credit from banks, and it takes probably 20-25 years to pay the debt. However, in this particular village in Subang, the communities, if a household need to build house, he just said to the community leaders, and the leaders will tell all the community members and contribute from cement, rocks, woods, including labors. And you will not believe, in 3 weeks the house is ready to be used. So you don't need to wait 20 years to pay your loan. In 3 weeks, it can be solved by its community. Similarly, in Bali, if you read the research by Seibel and Agung, they wrote about the indigenous institution of Lembaga Perkreditan Desa. It is an integration between modern and indigenous institution, as the model of Professor Slikkerveer I shown you in the last of my presentations. They combine between lembaga credit or credit institution with customary institution, or we call it indigenous institutions. And according to their research in 2008, this Lembaga Perkreditan Desa has successfully contributed to the poverty reduction, particularly in Bali, and announced by the Bank Indonesia as one of the best indigenous microfinance institution which integrate with local institution. Maybe there are plenty of them, but yeah, I guess the time limit.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Kurniawan, for the answer. Unfortunately, because of the limited allocated time, so we have to finish this session. I believe there are still many burning questions, and I hope you can submit it in the comment on YouTube. On behalf of the moderator, we would like to appreciate to all speakers for addressing those interesting topics. And we would like to appreciate to all of you for joining us in this session. Thank you for your enthusiastic, and we apologize for the inconvenience that we may have. So hopefully we meet at another event. I'm handing over the program to the Master of Ceremony. Thank you and have a good day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bu Reni.
Thank you so much for the great discussion led
Thank you,
by
thank you,
moderators.
Thank you for all.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Pak Kurnia.
Yes. These past few hours have been a great moment to discuss various themes that indeed enrich our knowledge shared by experts. in their field. We obviously could not get enough of it. However, time is not on our side. As the saying goes, to every beginning there is an ending. Moreover, now the International Seminar on Indigenous Knowledge for Sustainable Development has come to its end. On behalf of the committees, I would like to apologize if we have made any mistakes throughout the event. I end my duty as the master of ceremony for today's event. I do wish to see you all again soon. Once again, thank you everyone for participating in this event. We genuinely appreciate it. But before we end this event, we would like again to say happy birthday for Professor Dr. Honoris Causa Jan Slikkerveer, which was yesterday, the 9th of December. We wish you to have great health, happy moments, and wonderful days ahead. We have this last performance. Especially for you, there is a last performance for you.
Pak
Enjoy,
Ganjar.
ya.
Happy birthday, Pak Yan. Wishing all you the best for you. Hai. And our best regard to Ibu Madi.
Mohon kasadaya.
Trisakti School of Tourism. Happy birthday, Prof. Alhamdulillah. Sehat. Madi, apa kabar?
Mohon kasadaya.
Kurniawan, terima kasih.
Mangga kasadayana permios, hatur nuhun.
Ganjar nuhun.
Hatur nuhun pisan.
Sami.
Alah, nah lain sudah we tadi.
Terima kasih.
Bu Mirza, terima kasih.
Terima kasih Pak Hendy.
Wina, hebat, keren. Prof Yan, Bu Madi, miss you.
Salam sehat.
Sehat terus.
Pak Kurniawan, hatur nuhun.
Ya, Pak Kurniawan sudah tadi semuanya.
Kurniawan mau minta materinya.
Ibu Maya, Ibu Reni.
Sehat.
Assalamualaikum.
Bye.
Ibu Maya.
Yes, this is for Prof Yan. Especially for Prof Yan, ya.
Pak Kurniawan nyuhunkeun materina.
Ya.
Selamat ulang tahun, happy birthday, feliciter, Priyarda, Prof. Yan. Thank you for all the committee.
Thank you for all the speaker.
Ya.
Thank you, Ibu Nuning, Pak Kurniawan.
Ya.
Tapi tembangnya keren, Unpad.
Thank you, Pak Samson. Ya, good performance.
Enggak, bagi yang perlu materi saya share di chat aja ya.
Iya, mangga boleh.
Always be healthy. Bye-bye. See you around.
Thank you, Pak Yan. Thank you. Thank you. We wish you all the best, happy for the next coming year.
Miss you, Prof. Yan.
Thank you, Bu Sri. Thank you, Pak Samson. Thank you, everybody. Pak Kurniawan, Pak Petri, Ibu Tati, Prof. Tati, nuhun. Ini masih ada Pak Yusuf, nuhun. Pak Ade,
Pak Kusnandar, selamat ulang tahun juga.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you, Petri.
Selamat sore.
Bye.
Selamat siang.
Bye. Kurniawan saya pula. Bye, Pak Budi. Erwina.
Thank you.
Bye, Bu Rini. Saya.
Ibu Yuli, thank you. Bu Sri. Pak Riawan Diana Bos,
Terima kasih Teh Wina, izin lab ya.
Teh Iis, nuhun. Masih ada Ibu Prof. Nurani. Terima kasih Adi.
Mohon izin live ya. Sembahyang asar, mohon live ya.
Bu.
Oke, keren, sukses.
Makasih.
Terus. Oke. Terima kasih Bu Wina. Terima kasih Pak Kurniawan. Pak Ade. Terima kasih semuanya. Reni, Maya.
Thank you Bunda. Diana Bos, how are you? Patrick, how are you?
Juga ya, bagus sekali. Ya. Live ya.
Ada Ibu Lydia, Kristia. Oke.
Pak Kusnandar, Mas Nurmaya. Thank you.
Prof.
Nurmaya.
Ade damang, Prof.
Alhamdulillah. Semua damang.
Lama itu tetap lang, Prof. Ade.
Iya. Iraha di antus-antus di Indrik ya. Kapan pulangnya teh?
Bu, aku izin ya.
Terus lama ya, kita 1 tahun nanggung.
Ya.
Mohon Teh Sri.
Thank you, Pak Petri.
Patrick, how are you, Patrick?
Good to see you.
Ya. Yeah, good to see you too.
Halo Pak Patrick.
I'm also in the field.
Hai Diana.
Halo Diana. Ya.
Good to see you.
Diana, how are you?
Dah.
Pamit ya. Nuhun.
Mangga Sadayana, terima kasih. Kami semuanya. Mangga.
Teh Rita, damang.
Saya pamit ya. Assalamualaikum.
Ya, mangga. Salam.